You've tuned into the Bellingham Podcast for the week of April 7, 2019. This is episode 114. We are back and from that city by the Salish Sea. I am AJ Barce.
And back from a 5-week stint as a roadie for Taylor Swift's World Tour, I am Chris Powell. On this episode, AJ and I are back together after 5 successful Analog Explorer Watch Fam interviews. It's time, get it, to tackle a topic near and dear to my heart, productivity. But not in a way you're probably used to. This one comes with a side of bacon. Won't you join us for a tasty conversation? This is the Bellingham Podcast.
I have missed this, Chris. How are you?
I'm not bad. How about yourself, AJ?
I'm good.
Okay, time out. First of all,
okay, time out.
I'm starting this one out.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine,
seriously.
fine.
Congratulations on 5 successful interviews with members of the Watch Fam.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
The Analog Explorer was well represented.
Yeah.
And props to Dan C21CY, ToxicNatos, EA8, A Diaz, and BuyingOnTime. Great insights into their world and such. And for getting the inside scoop on a lot of stuff. Good work.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was a cool series. And for those listening, like also it also co-aligned with the fact that those 5 weeks, like you were on travel, I had stuff.
Like I said, it wasn't really Taylor Swift's World Tour. It's more like planning for the Spice Girls reunion tour in 2019. June 15th, they're playing London's Wembley Stadium. But you know, you didn't hear that from me. Anyway,
nobody can see my face right now. The fact that you know that amazes me, Chris.
Couldn't tell you what I had for lunch yesterday, but I know when the Spice Girls are playing Wembley. Believe that.
Like, how is that a thing? How do you know that?
I'm the king of useless information. All right, back to the topic at hand.
Anyway.
So I was curious, after having these interviews across the world, across the country, across the zip code, or whatever have you, what surprised you about all these interviews that you had? What was there some kind of common thread or something?
Well, other than the why watches hook.
But in your perspective.
Well, no, it was just cool. One, you and I have always kind of talked about like what would be a good methodology to like get other people on the show and stuff. So this was kind of a test run for that, which worked great. And what's cool is as I was recording all these, because we've, full disclosure, those episodes were kind of in the hopper, weeks in advance because we knew that we were going to be off the mic. But what was cool is how everybody is open. Like this is one thing that's interesting about these really silly pieces of technology, watches. Everybody, if you're into it, you can ask there's no such thing as a dumb question, right? And also the cool thing about it is, and we experience this on a daily basis working in technology, is there's always borders. There's always walls. Like I can only give you this much. I think I made a mention on one of the episodes, unlike most technologists, if you ask us, we're gregarious enough, we'll grab a mic and put it on a show, but that's not necessarily the case. And in the Watch Fam, if you see a really cool watch and you don't know nothing, you don't know anything about it, you just like it, and you just go up and say, hey, nice watch. If a person's in the Watch Fam, they'll be more than welcoming of you. Like, hey, cool. You want to know a little bit about it? Like, we'll talk about anything.
Yeah.
I
learned a little bit of that in welcoming familiarity in our trip a couple months ago to Red Bar, Vancouver, at an undisclosed location.
Yeah.
But
hey, Ryan.
Yeah, exactly. But to be somewhat of looking at the watch community and world from a periphery, just to be included, welcome. You got one watch, no sweat. It's a great watch. You're part of the family.
Yeah,
I like that. And in our area of technology, there are those that hold on to their knowledge with a tight fist. And good on y'all for sharing. Thanks very much for making us all more aware of all the goods that involve with watch straps and other watch-related items.
Side effect of those shows? Even people who listen to the show who are not into watches, I got a lot of direct messages of like, I knew nothing about this, and now I'm interested in looking at a watch or whatever. Like, it was interesting. I had people who are non-Watch Fam folk who were just like, that was really cool.
Very good. So, having gotten these insights from makers, one last question to AJ.
Yes.
Where are you seeing the world of watches and or the Watch Fam headed in the next few years as we approach, and you heard it here first, folks, the Roaring 20s?
Oh, the Roaring 20s.
You heard it here first, y'all.
I don't know.
Where are things headed?
I think Elena kind of nailed it on the head for me. I think it's going to be an interesting time from the perspective of American watchmaking. The fact that we have younger folk coming into this craft, and who are employed. You know, they either are working for large companies or starting their own. Like thinking like the two gentlemen that started Vortic watches out of like 3D printing metal and stuff. Like it's innovation, it's manufacturing, and it's bringing it back to something that is rooted in American culture. Like this was an industry here so many a century ago.
Yeah,
you know, and that's really cool. And I think as more and more people, as the trend kind of came out in a lot of the episodes, you know, we talk about a lot about digital minimalism and the fact that, you know, maybe these little trinkets might be a way for people to get more disconnected and more experiential of life. So,
sounds good.
Side effects. Another side effect, Chris, is
Yes.
that you might be listening to us finally all over the air on Camry 102.3 FM.
Low power.
Oh, I missed that baritone community radio here in the heart and the city of subdued excitement.
That's right. We're kind of getting our rhythm and our shtick again. It's been a month and a week since we've been on the stick.
Where have you been? Like, I mean, there's been weeks that I haven't been able to see or talk to you.
Yes. Full disclosure, I was not a roadie for Taylor Swift.
What?
Nor
You lied to me?
I just happened to
You have
notice.
some bad blood. You've got bad blood.
Yeah, it's nothing but bad blood. I, just been doing my thing, working with technology. And actually, I've been doing some work on a couple interviews, a couple episodes ago, at least from our Bellingham podcast numbers, not the Analog Explorer numbers. Had an opportunity to interview an executive director with a nonprofit in Bellingham. Stay tuned, folks. Next episode, a week from now, or whenever you happen to see number 114 in your podcast feed, there will be another executive director of a worthy, awesome Bellingham nonprofit that does wonderful work in this community. So stay tuned. I was on the interview path, but in between interviews, I had an experience that really resonated with me, and I wanted to talk about it because you know what? I could do whatever I want on this show, and as long as I clear it with you. Yeah,
but it's cool. I like this because it is unique.
So picture this, for how many episodes you've heard AJ and myself rattle on about working smarter, existing with less, being productive, being minimalist, et cetera, et cetera.
Bacon.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to visit a venue in Bellingham with my beautiful wife and our little niece. Ooh. We have a 4-year-old youngster niece who we were able to go to breakfast with on a Sunday morning in recent memory. Where do we go, you might ask, for breakfast?
Well, there's tons of places.
There are tons of places. However, due to our niece enjoying pancakes,
yes.
Where else would you go than the International House of Pancakes? Yes, IHOP over there on Bakerview. Thank you very much. We went to this restaurant Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m., i.e. ergo, the busiest time of the week. Normally, this is not a place I would frequent, not due to IHOP's, national chain status. Affiliation, yes. Our niece just loved pancakes. So I'm quietly dreading the wait that would occur as we're approaching the main entrances of the restaurant. There are people waiting outside of the venue to be able to get seated. So I'm thinking, oh goody, we've got a 45-minute, hour wait, whatever. Okay, we're going to keep a 4-year-old entertained.
With a 4-year-old, yep.
Yeah. Turns out, on Sunday morning, 10:30 a.m., there were 9 people ahead of me on the waiting list. I happened to scan the list of names. That was a lot. We were seated in 8 minutes.
8?
I could not believe it was 8 minutes till we got my name called to be able to get our table. So that leads me to think, what is going on with this restaurant? So I started paying attention. And you all know by now, I am hyper observant.
Laser beam eyes.
That's right. Needless to say, the wait staff with the International House of Pancakes, IHOP, if you will, were hustling all over the place. And I didn't get a chance to look at what shoes they wore, but if you need to get your 10,000 steps on a work shift, I would look at the feet.
Find those shoes.
Yeah, exactly. They were seating people, getting drink requests, serving food. They were all over the place, buzzing like a time lapse of planets in orbit. Anyway, but there were some nuances, or there were some little subtle things during our IHOP experience for breakfast that I found to be rather clever and noteworthy. And so I wanted to share a couple of them for those of you that may not have been to a finely tuned establishment of getting food in people's guts. As we got to our table, the host or one of the wait staff set the utensils up, napkin, fork, knife, spoon. They set it up in our places, and they noticed that the kiddo with us, hold that thought, our kiddo with us was at this particular seat. They set the utensils up away from their grabbiness by the parents.
I appreciate that. And it always perturbs me when I go to a place, whether they're local or a chain, and that, because I have a 2.5-year-old.
Yes.
And as soon as that roll gets put down, immediately he snatches it.
Yep.
And the first thing he pulls out is the knife.
Right.
Always.
Just like Animal on the Muppet Show playing drums. That's right. So setting up utensils away was a really good move. I'm sure they've had plenty of instances where they've observed parents moving them away. Let's get proactive. Exactly. So as we were, waiting to get our order taken, I'm looking around, and of course, in the din of all the patrons in the restaurant and the children along with them, there was an audible level. But I saw one of the waitstaff walk around with a tablet, making notes. It wasn't like a clipboard or anything like that. They had a tablet. And what I had noticed was they were tracking where the patrons or the customers were in their meal. Were they unserved? Did they have their food? Are they getting near the time for their check?
Now, this is separate than, they're not taking payments on this.
They are not taking payments. This is just like a rover, an observer, if you will. Because as they're noticing that a table's wrapping up, they might be ready to get the check delivered, which would get a table leaving
out the door faster.
To get it. Yeah, exactly. Hence our 8-minute wait. That was pretty cool in a proactive mindset. You see where they're at. See when the napkin flags. That's what when I used to wait tables, we called them napkin flags to let them know that they're done, ready for the check. That was really impressive. And then another thing is I was getting my hash browns because I digs me some hash browns.
Me too, bro.
They set us a couple condiments away from the kiddos.
Of course.
They gave us a half bottle of ketchup. Now, normally,
intentionally?
Well, but I don't know if this was on purpose or it just happened to be a busy Sunday morning. But having a half bottle of ketchup has some logic to it because, one, if you have a full squeeze bottle of ketchup, there could be an egregious amount of waste with unused ketchup that some people will just go squirt on their plate and then not use all of it. When you have a little, when you're approaching empty, you may not want to completely...
I see the psychology. Yeah.
I thought it was rather interesting. Less waste, less mess. And then as our niece was seated, they got the little kid menu with the coloring, drawing things, but they only had 2 crayons, red and blue. And I thought, okay, less mess with crayons scattered all over the place. You get 2 to choose from. Yeah. It eliminates decision fatigue for the little ones. I thought that was rather impressive how... Okay, and there wasn't any kind of crying, I want my burnt sienna. I want my emerald green. It was just red and blue. That's right. So less mess once again. And it was immediate. And so the children having the crayons were immediately focused on the kids' menu. Didn't have to worry about where's my food, I'm hungry, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Parents take note. They got this on lockdown.
That's cool.
The staff was really on it, which I was pretty impressive. From when our wait person took our order, I looked at my watch just because now I'm in observation mode. And our food, it was actually 2 plates, and our niece kind of shared, nibbled on some of ours. Because, kids of a toddler age may not be as hungry as a burly 1/8 of a ton gent in his 40s. The food was served in 7 to 8 minutes. That's pretty cool to be able to pump out an order from the kitchen and serve it borderline fast food time frame. Yeah. I mean, if you think about when you go to another fast food joint around town, how long does it take you to get your bag of awesome? 7 to 8 minutes is almost in that time frame, which is pretty cool.
Totally.
Also, one thing I noticed where the wait staff were really taking dedicated paying dedicated attention to the kids. And I noticed one of them asked about the kiddo. Would your kiddo like some milk or orange juice? Great move in avoiding any kind of gender mistake.
Yeah.
or any kind of, now with our niece, she's wearing a pink Hello Kitty dress.
Right.
I don't think there'd be much discernment or confusion about that. But there may be some kiddos that you don't want to err and worry about offending the parents. So good on them for giving a standard description and asking if they want some milk or orange juice or other stuff like that. I thought that was rather impressive. And then also, as we've talked about in episodes, in IHOP, they don't have any screens. Have you noticed, ladies and gentlemen, when you go to a national chain restaurant, there are these little devices that have a screen on them that allow you to play games on them.
For $14.99.
For $14.99.
Yeah,
and some have them just, it's a great way to get the kids zombified.
Right. To
stare into a screen. I'm not going to be relating to my child for this time that we are here in this restaurant. However, there is a drawback that I would observe in going to places that have that tablet or that device. You can't pay at the table.
Yeah.
Without that.
That's what I was wondering about the roamer, if that was that person with the clipboard tablet, if that was for payment or that was just for observation.
I don't think so. I think it was just for observation. So the fact, so it's kind of a give and take, or a good thing, bad thing, by not having a tablet to occupy the kid's attention.
Sure.
Red, blue crayons, you're good to go. Let's go at analog, shall we?
I like it.
Yes. So that was something. And then it could also be an advantage not to have a tablet at a table, just to prevent destroyed devices from kiddo abuse.
Wait, kids abuse things with screens? I'm confused by this, Chris.
Anywho, I just thought that was, as far as productivity, here's a way to be able to get an experience of getting your food, getting your grub on, and getting you out.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. And the check came in reasonable fashion. It was not rushed. They were really on it. They did the obligatory, how was everything, about 4 minutes into our meal. I mean, this is clockwork, ladies and gentlemen. And they really had it down. I mean, where have I been? Not at IHOP.
Well, we typically talk about local places on the show.
Yes.
So, I mean, of course,
this is a local place in Bellingham,
but affiliated with a chain. So this is an interesting bit.
It is, and so there's one, a couple unique things. Got our check for our meal. There's only one place to pay, and it's right at the front.
I was just going to ask. So what's the downside to the story?
The downside is they usually don't. You usually don't put your credit card in the little slip and then put it there where they come and grab it. It's like you pay on your own, there, sucker. So. But the problem is when I was standing at the place where you're supposed to pay, they're so jacked busy with people.
Right. So it's still a bottleneck.
Is this person waiting for a table, or are they ready to pay? So I kind of made myself apparent, not waving it around, but I definitely had my receipt of the tab in my fingers in a visible location.
Right.
And so therefore I got to pay one place. But the drawback of having so many people around, someone who's on wait staff may be wondering, okay, do I need to take care of the till?
Do I need to swoop into you, or you're all good?
Yes.
So, okay. One
and
downside.
only one time, there's one little vortex of an intersection that I saw 4 people arrive from north, south, east, west in this intersection at the same time. And they all stopped, and they all looked at each other. And I'm kind of like, oh, this is going to be interesting. Who goes first? The person with the food goes first. Of course.
Yeah.
And everyone backed up. It's kind of like a 4-way stop.
I was thinking more like Hurricane IHOP.
A Hurricane IHOP, that could work very well as well. So anyway, I actually had a pretty good experience at IHOP on Bakerview. Kudos to the waitstaff and to the manager for having such a well-organized, efficient experience for the throng of people that are going to have their Sunday breakfast there.
And coming from an introverted minimalist, that's pretty impressive, Chris.
Well, I didn't care for the noise level. I can't really do much about ambient sound acoustic treatments. It's going to be loud.
Yeah, especially if they're that hustling.
But an 8-minute wait, about maybe a 15-minute, 17-minute total time from seated to full. Here's my card. Here's my bill. That was a reasonable experience to get breakfast taken care of. There is a drawback to this experience, though, for those of you that may be frequenting IHOP and wanting to experience what I experienced. Other establishments in Bellingham may not be as efficient.
Sure.
Therefore, it's important to tell the kiddos that they got to be patient, because when you go to a local joint like Magda's Crepes, or Home Skillet,
sure,
or Fiamma Burger, which does breakfast,
I
do
didn't
they do
realize
breakfast?
that.
I didn't. I think they do breakfast, but
Sure.
But wherever you would go to breakfast, some establishments may not be as on.
Yeah.
As where I went to, so you got to have some patience. But here's an example of really observing where the stop gaps or where the bottlenecks are, and working on a way to be able to eliminate them and to make it a win for all involved. And that's a great illustration for us in our personal technology. Where are we spending a huge amount of time doing something that if we did something different, it might save a couple minutes.
Totally.
Which can factor into a number of hours over the course of months and perhaps a year. So anyway, that was a heck of an experience. Not something I was really ready to talk about on the show, but I'm like, you know what? And so as we're walking out, I text message AJ, and I'm like, show topic.
Yeah, no, I thought that was hilarious. So yeah, it was. I get this text, which is not uncommon from you, but literally just like, no joke, show topic, IHOP. And then all one word, productivity. And I'm like, Chris, did somebody jack your phone?
It wasn't
Chris?
It wasn't autocorrect iPod productivity. It was IHOP productivity.
Right. So, I'm like, done. I'm down, dude. Like,
so here's another, it's a great way to take a look around. And especially as we're getting into a season of, mercifully, this place is defrosted,
yes.
At least in the Northern Hemisphere, on the 48th parallel? Yes. In this zone, we're getting in warmer temps, which is a blessing. You may be going to various restaurants to go out to eat and other things. And so observe how the surroundings are and take note. You might find something similar or worse. Something that is similar in wonderful productive fashion is 102.3 FM KMRE.
Low power.
Community radio here in Bellingham. So anyway, what else is going on?
So with productivity in mind, I don't know about you, Chris, but it's spring, so we're doing a little bit of spring cleaning at our house.
Yes.
Are you working on the same as well? Or are you trying out anything new to kind of consolidate, minimize, maximize?
I've sold a great deal of things in my life. I still have some items that I want to sell and be able to, purchase other things, but I've had something that's kind of gnawed at me for a while, and we might talk about it in a future show. But I've really started to get concerned about our data online and how easy it is for someone to get access to it. And the companies that we use our email and a password for username and password for, what type of information do they have on us, including credit cards, including home addresses, including phone numbers.
So you're talking actually about physical tracking of data as opposed to like tracking data. Like, you go to Amazon and then you go to like UGG boots and all of a sudden UGG boots shows up in your Amazon.
Yeah, that's a web browser thing as far as having cookies from web browser traffic. What I'm talking about is the information we have in our user profile on a particular online site. And just what information is available for someone to be able to find about us. And I'm starting to get a little concerned about just what might be available. And so I've been trying to explore ways to create a little bit of a barrier between that personal life, which I really cling to, and what is put out in the online internet sphere.
Right. And
a lot of things as far as, I've talked about in my classes, what are 3 or 4 things that we must protect and guard vehemently, for lack of a better term. One is our social security number, no question. Number 2 is our our personal phone number. And a lot of us have mobile phones. That personal phone number can be a gateway to a whole lot of information that someone unauthorized can get access to that could really, that and our personal email accounts. And I may expand upon this later, but, and then also our home address. Those are 4 things. Social.
Yeah, but our home address is publicly, searchable.
Sure. And I'm trying not to put on the tinfoil hat on this.
No, I know you're not.
Yeah. But I think maybe, I'm kind of exploring, if you will, not in an analog fashion, but what can I do to try to limit the attack vectors, from a term that I'm hearing in a lot of some research that I'm listening to and reading about. Where are there vulnerable spots that I can kind of patch up with some spackle, if you will?
Threat assessing.
Threat assessing. And also, what would happen if I was to, I don't know, if there are people in our town, in our area, some whom we may know that are in abusive relationships. And before I continue, I want to talk, if you are listening and you are or you know someone who is in an abusive relationship, doesn't matter about the gender, doesn't matter about what type of abuse. AJ and I care about you. We want the best for you. And you shouldn't be allowing yourself to be in that type of relationship, period.
End of discussion.
End of discussion, full stop. So with that in mind, so if you are in one of these abusive relationships and you had to kind of hit game reset on your online presence.
I see where you're going.
What would you have to do? And I'm even, considering what if you had to give up your phone
right.
and get a new phone number and start over again? What if you had to disengage from, oh my goodness, your Facebook account because whomever may be able to track you in this way? So this is what I'm entertaining, going down this thought exercise path of like, Chris, what if you had to reboot your online life? And so I'm kind of taking some lumps and finding some stopgaps and some roadblocks along the way. Maybe sometime we'll talk about this in greater detail.
No, maybe we will.
Okay, fine.
You can tease it.
It's a tease. So anyway, this is something that's very important to me, and let's have a conversation in a couple episodes. What do you say?
I say, yeah, let's do it.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I think we are about at a place where we can wrap things up. So AJ, as we approach this month of April that we're in, what do you have going on?
So much like you, I've been doing a lot of spring cleaning, and throughout the several episodes before the AE episodes, I've been doing the great purge, as it were. And as a photographer, like, there's two things that I have to purge. One is literally my gear. Every so often, like, I got to refresh gear because I'm a working pro. So you got to get, things have to go out, things got to come in. So my wife was on the road for 2 weeks during all those recordings, and I sent her a text, and she thought I had a little bit of an existential crisis as she was gone. I was like, oh, hey, hon, by the way, I just sold my camera bodies and my lenses and stuff. I'm going to be getting some new stuff. And she's like, what? And so, I mean, it was fine. But what I ended up doing is, much like I've talked about on the show, I sold some gear to some people that I know that could benefit from it. I sold some gear to unfortunately large company on the East Coast that bought it back. And I got a new body. And I kind of hit a creative reboot. I'm still in the Sony ecosystem. I decided to go back to full frame, and I'll be doing some work with that later on. But no, it's been nice because it got me to realize, even in my minimalist camera philosophy, even I had a little bit of gear acquisition syndrome. And so it kind of made me reboot and realize what lenses I actually use, what equipment I actually need, what bags I need to actually carry, which has been nice. So my footprint, I have a lens case. You've seen my lens case before.
Yes, it is tasty.
And before you could see the walls and the floor, and now you can see entire shelves, Chris. It's kind of fun. But no, it's been great because I kind of get reacquainted with the kit that to me, I will never sell and I still use. And so I have that, and that's been kind of nice. But the second thing I've had to clear is something that you and I kind of dread, and that's our digital clutter.
Yeah.
The hard drives on hard drives upon hard drives that, I'll just buy a new hard drive because that one's close enough to being full and I'll organize it eventually. That's been my tackle since I've been doing the AE episodes. So for the last 4-ish weeks, my wife and I, when she got back, we've been hitting it hard doing spring cleaning physically and digitally. And I'm down to just a handful of hard drives, and we know where everything is. It's kind of like tax documents. You keep 7 years. You don't need to keep all 20 type of thing. And I'm culling the 20, like going back to graduate school, going back to even farther back.
Oh, yeah.
And saying, thank you. Goodbye, KonMari digital style.
Very good. Kudos. So I commend you on what you were able to do with your digital clutter and to get rid of some of these items that, you may not be using all the time. And the thing is, if you need to get that lens for in this case, you can always purchase it again. For
the most part. And that's the thing. There's some lenses that I won't ever let go because they are hard to find. But it's funny that you should say that. But 2 months ago, I was purging some lenses, and when I changed bodies and purged some more, I was just like, oh, holy crap, I need to get that one back. So I did. I bought another one, It's one of those things where if it's not, the only way I can say it is if it is not unique, then it can come and go type of thing.
It's accessible.
Yeah, it's accessible. That's a better way of putting it. You're better with words than me.
Well, very good. All right, let's stick a fork in the show.
That wraps it up for this reunion episode of the Bellingham Podcast. Thank you again so much for listening to us, rating us, reviewing us, wherever you like to get our podcast. Remember, if you're in the Bellingham area, you might be listening to us on KMRE 102.3 FM.
Low power.
Community radio here in the heart of the city by the Salish Sea. And on that note, gosh, it was good to have you back on the mic, Chris. I'm AJ Barcay.
And I'm Chris Powell. Stay tuned next week for a great interview with an executive director of a nonprofit in Bellingham. And thanks for joining us this time on the Bellingham Podcast.
Normally, we would not have this problem. At least it's not a train. Take a coffee break. Take a coffee break with AJ and Chris. Take a coffee break.